Hi, everybody. Welcome back and thank you for being here. I'm having some technical issues at the moment. Our load shedding is slowly increasing. My USB inverter's battery packed up exactly 5 days after the warranty expired, and the generator broke for the third time in 3 weeks. First, the starter cable broke, then the exhaust box broke off, and now it is leaking fuel. 2023 is definitely not kind to me. Anyway, everything is in for repair, so we'll be back on track very soon, hopefully. Today, we are revisiting a topic we spoke about so often that it feels like I'm repeating myself. Yet, each time we do talk about the subject, there is indeed a new element to this story. And what am I talking about? The Harkle children, of course. For the purpose of this video, we'll call them Murchie and Littlebucks, not as a reflection on the children themselves, but indeed because it actually hurts my soul that we have to bring them into this sordid mess at all. So it helps a little to call them by fictitious names with no reference to who they are or who they will turn out to be, but rather as reference to their supposed mother's character. Okay, we have spoken about Murchie and Murchie's birth numerous times, but now that there is once again talk of a split between Harry and Meghan, it is a good time to revisit it again, because ultimately, where they were born, how they were born, and whose DNA they carry will play a large role in what the future will hold for the children. So we are going to give it a quick rundown before we get to what may or may not be happening right now. When Harry and Meghan announced the pregnancy, or rather when Buckingham Palace made the official announcement, none of us thought she was actually faking it or that something was not right. I don't exactly know when people started doubting the pregnancy, but I think it is something which grew over a couple of weeks or maybe a month or two. I remember the first time I read or heard about a possible surrogacy. And at the time, I honestly did not think anything of it other than it is people looking for a story or 5 minutes of attention or fame. But somewhere between Fiji, Tonga, or New Zealand, I started getting an odd feeling about the pregnancy. Not that I even considered a surrogacy at that point. Of course, the first noticeable anomalies were the bump sizes. One day the bump is so large she could not possibly have tied her own shoes. And then weeks later, or even on the same day, just an hour or two later, the bump would be so much smaller that one could imagine the Duchess eating too much cake. Now look, babies move, and sometimes the belly is smaller than the day before because little Joe or little Susie pulled his or her buttocks in. But when we are talking about a bump so big that the mum can't see her feet, and the next day it only looks like she indulged in a donut or two, then we are talking something completely different. We are actually talking Meghan Markle. The bump size and the fact that she performed miraculous acts of going down on her haunches and even running ones that I can remember. Oh, and don't forget the bump which dropped to her knees. Well, everything was just too odd. Again, there is nothing wrong to be slightly vague with the birth date, because even if a doctor gives you a date, it is still an estimate and not a definite. For instance, both my daughters came a week or 2 weeks earlier than the date given by my OBGYN. It would normally be safer to say the baby is due in April, May, June, whatever, to give a month instead of a week or a day. However, with Meghan's pregnancy, the birth date was just too vague. Remember when the pregnancy was announced? They said the baby was due in the spring of 2019. Now, spring in the United Kingdom is officially from March the 20th until June the 21st. So basically, she did not even narrow it down to a specific month. No, no, no. She gave herself a 3-month period in which to produce a baby. However, in typical Meghan Markle fashion, she did not think things through properly. Remember when the pregnancy was announced, it was said that she was 15 weeks. Counting back 15 weeks from there, we can get a possible conception date. And counting forward 40 weeks again will provide a possible due date. Now, I know that is not a very accurate method, but suffice it to say, it gives a birth date towards the beginning or mid-April. On the 29th of April, the Sun's Emily Andrews reported that Meghan was a couple of days overdue. On May the 2nd, Chris Ship shared that Meghan was 4 days past her due date. As the days wore on and no baby appeared, royal correspondents did exactly what I was doing, and they started their own calculations based on available information. When the announcement was made, those who followed the royals for a long, long time knew she must have had her 12-week scan already and were likely 14 to 15 weeks at the time of the announcement. And again, counting the weeks, it was the general consensus that the baby was due early in April. Meghan herself, during a visit to Birkenhead, told a member of the crowd that she is due in April. So, according to royal reporters and Meghan herself, that baby was due in April. And then, when Murchie supposedly made his debut on the 6th of May, it goes without saying that she was also supposedly 2 to even 3 weeks late. Now, please hang on, my friends. A Canadian study done in 2018 confirmed that women having geriatric pregnancies have the highest risk of preterm births. But not Meghan Markle. No, no, no. She is the exact opposite of anything and everything which would be considered the norm. So at that point, we had a wobbly bump differing in size daily, a geriatric pregnancy ending 2 to 3 weeks late, and unlikely, and however unbelievable, it got worse. Meghan spoke about a home birth, but it was announced that she gave birth at the Portland hospital, except that no one at the Portland saw her arrive or leave, nor did they see Harry arrive or leave. No security was spotted hanging around either. According to Harry's book, they were taken in through the back and in a secret elevator. I asked, oh, did I ask? No one working at the Portland knows about a secret elevator. They have no clue what Harry is talking about. Harry's entire description of the birth is utterly ridiculous. His ignorance shows when he tells how he encouraged Meghan to push when it was found that the baby had the umbilical cord around his neck. The procedure when a baby's head has birthed and it is found that he has a cord around his neck is to stop the delivery process and to clamp and cut the cord before the shoulders are delivered. Not only does it prevent the baby from choking, but it also prevents the cord from tearing away from the placenta when the rest of the baby's body is delivered. In my opinion, Harry put pieces of other people's stories into their birth story. He took the funniest and most dramatic parts of maybe his friends' stories and formed them into the Harry and Meghan birth story. Then there were the announcements. The media got the worst of it. There was an announcement that Meghan was in labour at 2:04 p.m. 40 minutes later, that she had given birth at least 8 hours earlier at 5:26 a.m. Now, the problem is that there is actually a problem with the 5:26 a.m. birth time. And the problem is this. At 5:26 a.m. at the Portland, there was no private OBGYN signed in at the Portland, and nor was there a midwife signed in at the Portland at 5:26 a.m. And you guys, I'm not going to go through the whole scenario of how the doctors work at the Portland, but suffice it to say, most of them are private doctors and they have either teaching or practicing privileges at the Portland. Anyway, to date, we still do not know who the doctor was who delivered Murchie. First, it was Dr. Penelope Law, according to the Finding Freedom book and the media at the time. And then, when her husband denied it in a Twitter post, and a colleague came out and stated that Dr. Law was on leave at the time and likely out of the country, the Harkle camp quickly named Dr. Gary Motha as the culprit, except that I personally contacted the Portland hospital and was told in very short and very curt terms that Dr. Motha did not have any practice or teaching privileges at the Portland. So now what? Who next? A couple of other names were put forward, but to date, after the two previous lies, no one else was as yet named as the attending physician. Just as a simple reminder, the official royal birth announcement at the gates of Buckingham Palace did not have the usual attending physician's signatures either. Like anyone else, I searched for the truth and was lucky to have come across someone who had links to the Portland, St. Mary's, and a number of hospitals and clinics in and around London. Quickly, I learned that there was a raffle going on between the Portland and St. Mary's. Staff and regular visitors took bets as to where the royal baby would be born. And when the birth was announced publicly, the staff at the Portland as well as St. Mary's were equally baffled. Messages flew among staff members, but with no answers. A secret or piece of information I have not shared is that soon after I shared the story of the raffle, a certain medical office had a surprise audit or investigation due to allegations of sharing private medical information or making it public. Now I'm asking you, why? I am relatively careful how I say things on YouTube, and this is also the one and only time I received a legal threat in the form of a demand to know where or from whom I got certain information. Luckily, I had learned a lesson from Meghan Markle and suddenly suffered from severe memory loss. And if asked again today, my memory is still failing me on that. And I also have a different laptop now. And my old motherboard got the £4 hammer treatment. So make of that what you will. You decide what all of that means. Then there was the introduction of Murchie to the press and public. Yet another strange event, Meghan's crooked bump and all. Then the photograph of Harry, Meghan, supposedly Archie, the Queen, Prince Philip, and Doria. I, along with others, inspected and dissected the photograph and everything which was wrong with it. The pixels of the different individuals in the photograph differs. Doria is not taller than Meghan, and the Queen was photographed standing in the same position, wearing the same clothing as she wore at a horse and pony show. Then there was the Father's Day picture of supposedly Murchie and Harry, except that we found a very similar photograph on the internet, and when the baby in that photograph was replaced with a photo of Stacey Solomon's baby Rex, it was an almost 99% match. I even went so far as to have the photo tested and duplicated professionally. And when I sent our findings to Kensington Palace, I received a reply informing me that it was a generic picture, whatever that would mean. Now, please note that although I have sent a number of letters to Kensington Palace and Buckingham Palace, this was the only reply I ever received. Then the christening. As you know, the christening photograph had been analyzed numerous times, and I'm definitely not going to do it again. For me, the greatest lie lies in the fact that Harry and Meghan gave credit to the Archbishop of Canterbury for christening Murchie, except that the Archbishop was at a synod meeting in York that Saturday. And of course, not all the people attending the meeting reported to little old me, but at least two people who had family members there did. And according to their timeline, it was almost impossible for the Archbishop to have travelled from York to Windsor and back to York in the time that the uncle of one of these people did not see him. I actually have those reports, and I did screenshot it, and I did contact the Archbishop's office requesting an explanation twice, and to date have not received a reply, although I did receive a reply once before and once after on different matters. So you again make of that what you will. Also remember that we have seen two versions of Archie's birth certificate, the explanation being that it was changed after a month or two. First, it was alleged that Buckingham Palace had it changed, and then Buckingham Palace denied it. So far, most of what I had given you in this video is old news, except for one or two nuggets which I have not spoken about before. And I'm sure you, my subscribers, are all brilliant and have indeed picked up on those nuggets. Okay, like I explained, I'm having some technical difficulties, so unfortunately I can't continue with this video. But what I am going to do is I'm going to pull it all together and bring it into the current situation tomorrow in a part 2. So please hang in there for me and take good care of yourselves until we meet again on the next one. Bye.